Hello and welcome to Wisdom Forge. Stress hallucinations, when your brain creates threats, cortisol and sensory misinterpretations. Your brain on alert, how stress creates false realities. When under extreme stress, your brain can play terrifying tricks, seeing shadows move, hearing voices that aren't there, or feeling imaginary bugs crawling on your skin. These aren't signs of mental illness, but your overwhelmed brain misinterpreting sensory information. Cortisol, the stress hormone, heightens your senses to detect danger, but when flooding your system for too long, it starts finding threats where none exist. This evolutionary survival mechanism, meant to protect you from predators, now misfires in modern stressful lives, creating hallucinations that feel completely real to the experiencer. The cortisol filter, how stress warps your senses. Normally, your brain filters out unimportant sensory data, the hum of your fridge, peripheral movements, or your own breathing. But cortisol removes this filter, making you notice everything with equal intensity. Imagine listening to 10 radio stations simultaneously. That's how a stressed brain processes reality. This sensory overload leads to pattern recognition errors, where random shapes become faces in the dark or white noise becomes whispering voices. The scariest part? You can't logic your way out because your brain truly believes these hallucinations are real threats. Sleep deprivation's double whammy on perception. Combine chronic stress with lack of sleep, and your risk of hallucinations skyrockets. Sleep-deprived brains show activity patterns nearly identical to psychedelic drug trips. The temporal lobe, responsible for processing sensory information, becomes hyperactive while the prefrontal cortex, reality checker, weakens. This explains why exhausted students sometimes see things during all-nighters or why overworked nurses hear phantom patient calls. Your brain isn't breaking, it's desperately trying to stay alert by creating stimuli to keep you awake, blurring the line between real and imagined in the process. The ghost in the machine, stress-induced auditory hallucinations. Many people report hearing their name called or brief phrases when alone and stressed. These auditory hallucinations occur when your brain misinterprets random noise as speech, a phenomenon called auditory pareidolia. Your auditory cortex, pumped with stress hormones, becomes hypersensitive to potential human voices, a survival trait from our tribal past. White noise from fans, traffic, or even your own blood flow can get transformed into recognizable sounds. While unsettling, these hallucinations are generally harmless unless accompanied by other symptoms. Shadow people, why stress creates phantom figures. The shadow person phenomenon, seeing dark humanoid figures in peripheral vision, commonly occurs during periods of extreme stress and fatigue. This happens because your visual system prioritizes detecting human forms, a leftover from predator detection. When stressed, your brain stops waiting for complete visual data and fills in gaps with what it expects to see. These hallucinations often vanish when looked at directly because focused vision provides enough data to correct the misinterpretation. They're most common at night when low light provides less sensory information to work with. Tactile hallucinations, the creepy, crawly feeling. Stress can make you feel insects crawling on your skin when nothing's there, a condition called formication. This occurs when cortisol overstimulates your somatosensory cortex, the brain region processing touch. Mild versions feel like tingling or itching. Severe cases include distinct sensations of movement or biting. These hallucinations are particularly common during withdrawal from substances, including caffeine, but also appear in people under prolonged stress without any drug use. The sensations feel utterly real because, to your nervous system, they are. The memory hallucination, when stress rewrites your past. Stress doesn't just distort current reality, it can fabricate false memories. Under cortisol's influence, your brain prioritizes emotional impact over factual accuracy when encoding memories. This explains why people vividly remember details from traumatic events that never happened. The hippocampus, normally memory's fact-checker, gets suppressed by stress hormones, allowing the amygdala to store emotionally charged but inaccurate versions of events. These false memories feel completely real because they're processed through the same neural pathways as genuine ones. Office psychosis, the modern stress hallucination. Open-plan offices and high-pressure jobs spawn a new phenomenon: workplace hallucinations. Overstimulated employees report seeing keyboards move, hearing phantom phone notifications, or even smelling smoke when none exists. These occur when prolonged work stress combines with sensory overload from fluorescent lights, computer hum, and peripheral movements. Unlike psychotic hallucinations, these vanish when stress levels drop, but they signal your brain is operating far beyond healthy capacity. Ignoring them can lead to more severe symptoms. The night shift effect, stress and circadian hallucinations. Night workers experience stress hallucinations at triple the normal rate. Artificial lighting confuses the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's clock, while sleep deprivation weakens reality testing. Combined with job stress, this creates perfect conditions for misperceptions: forklift drivers seeing ghost pallets, nurses seeing empty beds occupied, or security guards hearing break-ins. These hallucinations peak around 3 to 4 a.m. when circadian rhythms hit their lowest point and cortisol should be resting but is instead artificially elevated by stress. Grief hallucinations, when loss alters reality. Bereaved individuals often report seeing, hearing, or feeling deceased loved ones, experiences traditionally called ghosts but now understood as stress-induced hallucinations. Intense grief keeps the body in a prolonged cortisol state while simultaneously activating attachment centers in the brain. This combination makes the bereaved particularly prone to sensory misinterpretations that provide comfort. These hallucinations differ from psychotic episodes by being brief, comforting, rather than frightening, and recognized by the experiencer as unusual. Parental hallucinations, the exhaustion factor. New parents frequently experience baby hallucinations, hearing cries that aren't happening or seeing the baby in bed when they're safely in their crib. These aren't signs of poor parenting but of extreme stress and sleep deprivation. The brain remains hypervigilant for infant-related stimuli, creating false positives. Interestingly, mothers who bottle feed report these hallucinations as often as breastfeeding mothers, proving it's stress/sleep-related rather than hormonal. Driving hallucinations, highway hypnosis explained. Long-distance drivers sometimes report seeing animals or people darting across the road when nothing's there. This highway hypnosis occurs when stress, from sustained focus, vibration, and monotony overloads sensory processing. The brain expects potential obstacles so strongly that it creates them from shadows or road markings. These hallucinations serve as important warnings to take breaks before fatigue causes real accidents. Medical stress, ICU psychosis, and hospital hallucinations. Up to 80% of ICU patients experience vivid hallucinations, seeing ceiling tiles move, believing nurses are imposters, or hearing non-existent machines. This ICU psychosis stems from extreme physical stress combined with sensory deprivation, no windows, constant light, and sleep disruption. It's not mental illness but the brain's desperate attempt to create stimulation in a sterile environment while flooded with stress hormones from illness. Symptoms usually resolve after leaving the ICU environment. Caffeine and cortisol, the stimulant hallucination link. While not dangerous in normal doses, excessive caffeine can induce hallucinations in stressed individuals by amplifying cortisol's effects. Studies show high caffeine consumers are more likely to report paranormal experiences during stressful periods. This explains why students pulling all-nighters with energy drinks sometimes see things. It's not the caffeine alone, but caffeine intensifying pre-existing stress hormones in the brain. The musical ear, stress-induced song hallucinations. Many people under stress report hearing phantom music, faint radios, choirs, or familiar songs playing. These musical ear hallucinations occur when the auditory cortex, deprived of normal input, like in quiet rooms, starts generating patterns from random noise. Stress makes this worse by increasing the brain's pattern-seeking behavior. Unlike psychotic hallucinations, most people recognize these as unreal but can't make them stop. Mirror hallucinations, when reflections misbehave. Stress can create bizarre mirror hallucinations, seeing your reflection move independently, show different ages, or display distorted features. This happens because face processing becomes hyperactive under cortisol while reality-checking mechanisms weaken. The brain, expecting potential threats, modifies what you see before you consciously perceive it. These hallucinations are especially common during periods of identity-related stress like aging, career changes, or relationship turmoil. The disappearing object phenomenon. That frustrating experience of losing something only to find it exactly where you already looked? Often a stress-induced perceptual error. Under cortisol, your visual system prioritizes threat detection over detail orientation, making you literally not see objects directly in front of you. The angrier you get, the worse it becomes as stress compounds. This explains why things magically reappear after you calm down. Your brain returns to normal processing. Stress seizures, when hallucinations signal physical overload. In extreme cases, stress can trigger non-epileptic seizures involving vivid hallucinations. These differ from epileptic seizures by being the brain's circuit breaker tripping from emotional overload rather than electrical misfiring. Patients may smell odors that aren't present, see visual distortions, or experience out-of-body sensations. While frightening, these episodes are your brain's last-ditch effort to force rest when ignored earlier stress signals. Calming the hallucinating brain, practical solutions. Fortunately, stress hallucinations usually resolve when cortisol levels normalize. Prioritizing sleep, reducing caffeine, and practicing grounding techniques, like describing real sensory details, can help. If hallucinations persist after stress reduction, consult a doctor to rule out other causes. Remember, your brain isn't broken, it's overprotective. By managing stress, you restore its ability to distinguish real threats from false alarms. When to seek help, hallucination red flags. Most stress hallucinations are harmless, but consult a professional if they occur without clear stress triggers, persist after stress reduction, cause significant distress, or are accompanied by other symptoms like paranoia. Temporary misinterpretations are normal during extreme stress. Constant distortions may indicate needs beyond simple stress management. Your mind is your most precious tool. Treat its signals with respect but not fear. Thank you, and let's stay connected. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. If you found this video valuable, imagine what you'll learn next. Subscribe to Wisdom Forge and hit the bell icon so you never miss more thought-provoking content, practical wisdom for everyday life, the tools to unlock your full potential. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway or what topics you'd like to see next. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning.